Cool. Okay, 6:30 as usual. We will be starting. We will try our best to start on time, finish on time, so that everyone can move forward to our lives. And don't forget, this Friday is actually holiday. So even though we're all working from home, or probably some of you are already back in the office, you don't need to show up this Friday, mainly because there is no class this Friday. Dragon Boat Festival. So if you want to go and watch some, I don't know, do you watch it or do you eat dumplings with it? I know there are a lot of like this sticky rice everywhere for only 128. They're selling it everywhere. So if you want to do the celebration, buy some sticky rice and I don't know, watch Dragon Boat. I seriously, I'm very bad at this. I've been here for quite some time, but I still couldn't figure it out sometimes. Now, okay. So as usual, for today's, okay, okay, let's click. There we go. For today's session, we will be giving you some course updates and media types. So basically, this is Lorelard's media types. It's a very easy topic, but very something that you would really need to know. Primarily because once you produce all your videos, the logical question is what's next. So we started to, so if you notice, we started with how to make a story, because story engage people, it will try you to connect with people, and then you will learn the different elements of a story. So now that you learn how to make a story, you need to storyboard a story. That's why in the second week, we focus on storyboarding and video editing. After the video editing, you've learned some video editing skills. We move forward with how do you make a effective video. So based on design principles of Mayer. That is why we're focusing on mostly on Mayer for the past week, last week. And then now, if you know how to design an effective video, what's next? How would you push it forward? Okay. Well, one way is just to toss all those video out of the window and continue with our lives. But of course, if you are an educator, you would be looking for something more to make sure that the time spent you did for all those video are all worth it. So media types, but before that, course updates. So all videos, I should have added S, all videos are in. So I will be updating that Moodle folder that are assigned to you. So I will be uploading all their videos, okay? What will happen now is that whatever you've submitted to us, we will now forward it with the interested party, which are the teachers. But there are some changes in their videos. So there are a couple of changes in there. Some of them did change a little. Some of them have a little bit of minor changes. So just be aware, once you receive that video, you could actually you could start working on it. Now, what we're going to do is that once you receive that, if you have any question, just go back to us. If not, then of course you can continue with the editing of those video. Now, what we're going to do before you edit all those video, I would suggest that you wait for the teacher's approval. So what will happen is that once you were picked, because just in case you are picked by the teacher to really produce that video, then you will be working with that teacher most likely through me, Tiffany, and Telly people. But if you were not picked, then you will proceed as usual by editing it, getting all the media that you can, and come up with a video. Now, just in case that you are going to work with the Telly people and the teacher, so just in case, if you start working on it now, you might have some few changes later. So if you're okay with that, you can, once you receive the video, you can proceed to it and do what you want to do. Okay. This has been announced last week. Teaching app video reminder task 4. So this is the task 4. Submission would be next week. Okay. So if you are looking at your, let me see, if you're looking at your Miro board, you know that we've made quite a few of that. So all of you have already submitted. There. Okay. So all of you have already submitted. You know what are the 13 principles of mayor. So, and we've given you a little bit of time last week to discuss with your group mates. Now, if you want to revise the video, update it, you can put it here anytime. And then next week, we will do the group feedback for this one. Okay, so that's for that assessment. After that, all group tasks are done. Then you can focus on creating your final assessment, which is a video. Okay, the trailer video for Common Core. Now, another update is that slides for session 5 slide and recording are now up in Miro. We will update it in Moodle very soon, but all the slides are in Moodle now as well. So for the recording, we will update it just in case you want to watch. Okay, so far, any questions? Were you able to differentiate each and every video sets that we've provided? Or some of you are confused than ever? Now, let's look at your answers before I would jump into the actual concept. Okay, so who wants to volunteer their group? Anyone?
We can.
Okay, we'll go with Ingrid's group. Okay. So I will be mainly focusing on media 1, 2, 3. And then later, Tiffany will be discussing to you media 4 and 5. But for media 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3, okay. So, so your answer for media 1, introductory storytelling, narrated media from the web.
Yes.
Okay. Is media 2 not from the web?
That's in parentheses. You can kind of ignore that.
Let me share my screen. I think my screen is not sharing. There we go. Okay, so my screen is sharing. And okay, hello?
Yes.
Yes, great. Now we can hear you. Go. So, is media 2 not from the web?
It is from the web too, correct? Media 2?
Yes, media 2. And media 3?
It was also on the web.
Okay, so characteristic, they're all from the web. Let's look. Live streaming is media 2. Is media 1 and 3 not a live streaming?
Not live.
Not
From 1.
Okay.
And media 3 is not live also.
Not live also. Okay. But so the definition for media 1, to introduce, to inform, for entertainment. Can media 3 be for entertainment?
Yes. But there's a difference between the two.
Okay, so what's the difference?
In media 3, you have branching scenarios, meaning you can choose your to different endings, I guess you can say.
Okay.
Or different options along the way. It may go to the same ending, but you may have different options to get there.
Okay. So for media 3, I think it's quite you have a very clear-cut line. It's if it is branching, it's media 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If it is live streaming, it's media 2. Okay. But if it is for entertainment, to inform or to entertain, it's media 1. Okay. So we will look at another group. Any other group who would want to offer their board to the class? Let's look at. How about JAMC? Okay. JAMC says media 1, 2, 3, narrative, narrative, narrative. Do you agree? I think with this definition, we can move forward, right? it would disagree with Mary's and Ingrid's group. How about yours, Abdul? So for Abdul's group AAPS, okay, their definition of media one, a video to transport information. Okay, so a little bit flaky there. One type of media that broadcasts the show that is happening right now. So live streaming, quite similar with Ingrid's group. It is a video that is created to allow user to interact within the video. So I think, I suppose, Abdul, that's branching scenario you're referring to. Okay, now, okay, so let's look at the definition according to Lorillard. Okay, so if you're looking at this, we will do the very first one, which is called narrative. So what is a narrative video or media type? Anything that is linear media that are non-interactive and computer-based. So anything that is non-interactive and computer-based. So from media 1, 2, and 3, which one is narrative? Which set?
1 and 2.
Is it 1 and 2? So the definition, anything that is non-interactive. So 1 and 2. How about White Hat? What's your guess or your answer? Among these three media 1, media 2, media 3, these three sets, which of the following is a narrative media? White Hat?
For the first one.
The first one. So you're going with the first one. Okay. Kenneth,
Yes.
what's your answer? Kenneth?
First one.
First one. Okay. Who? Okay. So in chat, can you help me to type? I think it's quite clear, 1 and 2. So which one goes for 1? Which one goes for 2? Which one goes for 1 and 2? Can you type it in chat? Okay. Let's see. Okay. So Abdul, Jason goes for 1. A lot actually went for 1. I haven't seen 1 and 2, and I haven't seen 2. So I think the vote goes for 1. And the answer is media 2. You're like, why? What happened there? Okay. So what's the definition of a narrative media? Basically anything that is one way. As a user, your job is just to receive. You just wait on the other side of the line. You receive. So if you are, let's say, using a, let's say you're comparing a podcast and radio, which one is narrative? Podcast or radio? Or both?
Radio.
Radio? Camille?
Why not podcast though?
Why not podcast, right? Why not podcast? Okay. Good question, Mary. Now, anyone who has any other answer or would think it's podcast narrative? So I think radio, we all agree. Radio is narrative, right? You're at the very end of the speaker receiving the information or receiving whatever music you're listening to. That's why we will look at some examples, okay? Now, if you look at some examples, narrative, this one is it's not really a media type, but your lecture, if the person is just standing and doesn't ask you any question, that is a narrative one. We will also look at your television, okay? So if you have a television and you're watching a live broadcast, that is narrative. and your classic radio. Those are all narrative. Now, Mary is asking podcast. Why podcast is not a narrative? Mainly because, let me just jump very quick. I rearrange it wrongly. Okay. Because your podcast is actually an interactive. Don, it's not entertaining at all. It doesn't, you don't deal with it. You don't choose anything. But what is the definition of interactive in Lorillard's? So anything that is present when you present a media, and then that includes some hypertext and some hypermedia, multimedia resources, these are your interactive. What do we mean by that? Once you have a podcast, you receive that, you go to the MTR, and you're about to exit MTR, and you have to cross the street. You can pause it for a while and then walk. Go back again to when you're safe enough, play it on again, and then you can continue walking. Or let's say, oh, Don, I will be having you are watching right now. Let's say you are now in Netflix, but it's already 6:30. Let me pause my Netflix show for a while, come back 9:30 later and play it again. So in that simple play button that you have, pause, play, fast forward, move backward, these are all parts of an interactive media. More often than not, because we are so accustomed to YouTube, Netflix, Spotify, whatever all this media that you're receiving now, we're so used to the pause and play, pause and play. We normally think of the interactive and narrative based on the content rather than the interaction that we're having, right? But once you're creating a video, imagine if you are going to create a video in a narrative format, for example. I'll give you one classic one. If you've watched the HKU 111, have you? Have you tried? So they live broadcast it at one point, right? So that very live broadcast, you cannot, well, once you upload it, you play it in YouTube, you can actually go back. But if you are playing it in television that you cannot control, your people or the audience cannot control, then the way you will treat that video will be different if you can move forward and move backward with it. One example, my classic example of, let's say you have a graph. So imagine if you're watching a news, typically they will not bombard you with heavy graphs, mainly because 15 seconds later, the news has to move forward and you'll forget about it. Unlike if it is interactive, I can bombard you with a huge graph, pause for a while because you need to read it, zoom in because your computer can zoom in, zoom out, and play it again. Listen to the rest of the discussion, pause, go back again to that part where you want to see that graph, and so on. So narrative and interactive mainly focuses on the hypertext and hypermedia. If you can click a button to pause and play, that for sure. If you can control the way you will listen to it, then that in itself is interactive. Are we clear on that? Okay, so podcast, narrative, interactive. Now in chat, podcast, narrative, interactive. Chat, anyone? Is it narrative, interactive, podcast?
Interactive.
Interactive, there we go. YouTube?
Just like Spotify.
Sorry?
Just like Spotify.
Spotify, exactly. You have your Spotify, interactive. YouTube is your...
Just like YouTube.
What if you got a CD, if you're still having those like CD player? anything that is recorded in cassette. Do you remember cassette? Are you still familiar with cassette? Kids nowadays, cassette, Walkman, Sony Walkman. If you're familiar, is Sony Walkman interactive or narrative? That cassette tape.
Interactive.
Interactive. Even, how about, what do you call this? The vinyl. Is it vinyl? Vinyl?
Records?
Yes, records. Records. Anyone? Okay, let me put it in. Is this how you spell it? Vinyl. How do you spell it? VINY. Records, right? Okay. Anyone familiar of this technology?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in Chinese, Sheree? What was it?
Oh.
黑胶盘、黑胶唱片。
Okay. So, is this one narrative or interactive?
Interactive.
Interactive?
Mhm.
Can you pause and play it?
Yeah, I think you can. You lift up the needle.
And then it will roll.
The music stops.
If you put back the, what will happen if you put back the needle?
It resumes.
Does it resume to where it was playing?
I think
I
so.
think it does.
You can also play it backwards, I think.
Okay, so
Because there used to be these little, I remember there was like these little notches and it's like each song had a notch or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
okay, because I know it goes in, it kind of like goes from outer to inward. But
Yes.
once you lift it, I'm not sure how does it once you put it back, whether it will play at the exact time. So
We'll play in a similar area, I believe.
okay, are we talking about the newer ones or the old ones?
No, old ones.
Old ones. Okay. So this one will be, if you can go back to the same point in time or fast forward, this would definitely go to your interactive. Okay, so that is your interactive and narrative. Now, so what are other things? So if you look at everything that you've seen in YouTube, most likely those are interactive. Netflix or whatever streaming devices that you have are all interactive. And for as long as there's a hypermedia or enhanced hypermedia, then that would fall into interactive. Now, so what do we mean by hypermedia? To be more specific, so it's an extension of hyperlinks. Actually, if you look at your YouTube video, those buttons are just links. And those parts of that circle in your YouTube that goes forward, it's just an animation of the different links that they have in there. That's why if you play a particular second in YouTube, you can actually right-click it and copy this one. So if you're going for YouTube, for example, I think most of the streamings are similar to this now. So if you right-click it, let's say you move forward to a specific time frame, 145 seconds, you right-click it, copy the video URL at current time. So if you copy it, you would see, if you look closely, it would tell you the exact timestamp, which is actually an hyperlink. So that's what Lorillard is trying to tell us. So basically, whatever you can control, most likely it's an hyperlink that handles your sound and audio at the same time. Now, what does enhanced hypermedia means? Enhanced hypermedia is basically just to support your learners in an exploration in a set of resources. So what do we mean by that? So for example, if you look at this now, if you want, so if you have a media now and you have a hyperlink, why not we embed some questions into it to make it more interactive, right? So aside from that, you would see if you watch YouTube, if you still remember that branching scenario, you can actually click those things. Those are part of that interactive video affordances. Similarly, if you're using H5P, this is another form of enhanced hypermedia, which is interactive, that allows you to click and answer questions as you play the video forward. Okay? Any questions so far? Any questions?
I have a question, Don.
Yes. Go, Harry.
I think we are now learning different types of media. So when it comes to designing, like learning or I don't know, storytelling, so does it mean that we have to identify, or do we have to target like as many as possible, or like how are we going to apply our knowledge on the different types of media?
Okay. So to answer that question, so like what I mentioned earlier, now that you have already created some videos, okay, and let's say I decide to put it in YouTube, so you already know that, okay, YouTube is an interactive space, right? Now, the next question is that if I make that and I make an enhanced hypermedia to make it even more interactive, can I put some questions into it? Then imagine how you're going to edit your video. Do you remember the Monty's example that we have, the Monty's problem, the Monty's door? You know, that 3 doors, one is goat.
Yeah, I remember.
So imagine I can put a question in between. Because last time we were saying that Don, the other one is actually better because it has this person embodiment, and this person is actually like talking to you. But we were asking you, no, it's about the generative question, whether you can pause or you give time for your students to think, or you encourage your students to interact with you, right? But since we are just talking about YouTube in itself at that time, because it was uploaded in YouTube, you cannot really control much. Though it is still interactive, you can put a part of your video, pause for a while, and then they can actually pause and then think about it. But at the same time, since we are already learning this hypermedia, enhanced hypermedia, then you can start thinking like, okay, what if I can use H5P and my YouTube video at the same time? So this is pushing it further. So the question is, it depends on how you would want, or what would be your learning objective. So at the end of the day, if you want to design your own courses, is going for narrative just one way. Students will receive it and they will just have to listen to it in one go. Is it effective? Rather than going with interactive, that they can push forward, backward, and listen. Because right now, if I don't record this session, this is narrative. Practically, though we're in a communicative way, we're like talking, right? You can ask me a question, I can reply back. But once, if this is not recorded, that's it. You only have one shot to remember this. So if I start talking about your assessment now, most likely what your students will do, they will keep on listing things because you don't want to miss out things, right? So you really have to weigh in what would be my objective, whether I would choose a narrative or interactive. And then once you do it, then your video editing will kind of have to adapt into that. Yep. Because once it becomes interactive, communicative, productive, all this type of media, then you could add a little bit more or change a little bit of what you have. Okay. So let's give everyone like 15-minute break, and then we will come back. We will discuss adaptive media and the other three. Okay. So let's come back at around 5. That's 30, 7:40. Okay. So 15-minute break, come back at 7:40. I agree. Okay. So if you can switch on your camera, that will be very much appreciated. If not, it's totally fine. Now, so we've already discussed the first one, which is narrative and interactive, the second one. So the only thing is the only keyword that you need to remember, hypermedia and enhanced hypermedia. Can I pause? Can I play? Move forward, move backward? If the answer is yes, interactive automatically. If the answer is no, automatic goes to narrative. Okay? So we're clear on the definition of that. Now, the next one is adaptive. So what is an adaptive media? Anyone? You've already got it so correct. Media number, is it number 2? No, media number, which media is it? 1, 2, or 3? Should be straightforward.
3.
3? Evie, what do you think? Is it Evie, Ivy, Evie? Evie?
Hi, I'm here.
Yes, 1, 2, or 3? Which group are you?
Join us if you like.
Join us if you like. Let's see. Let's join their group. Pre-recorded media, real-time, media resources edited and produced on basic. Okay, which one? Media 1, 2, or 3? Adaptive.
3 maybe. I'm not very sure.
Not very sure. Okay. Anyone who is sure of his answer? Tony, what do you think? Tony?
Is media C.
Media 3. Okay. So the answer is correct. You've got it all right. Media number 3. The only thing that you need to remember if it is adaptive, okay? So narrative, one way, cannot do anything. You can do something, that will become interactive. But if there is a capability that you change the outcome based on your action, then that becomes adaptive. Okay? Classic example, you watch that link YouTube videos, right? If you just watch one video, that's interactive. But once you start linking all these videos together, then that becomes adaptive because you're giving them a choice now. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Click this, you move forward. Click that, you go somewhere else. That also goes back to Harry's question before the break. Like, Don, we're thinking about all these media types. Now that I've been creating videos, so how should I link it? Video editing wise, you can create a story using Cohen, right? So you have a Cohen story. You have a very beautiful plot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plots. Can we make a different pathway plot? So if your story, you could start thinking, let's say this guy or this teacher, would he or she be choosing to do online class or let's say face-to-face class? What are the affordances? How are you going to do a face-to-face class? How are you going to do an online class? So it's 2 options. So you could have this story and then at the very end, there will be some conclusion. So if you think about it, one storyline, or if you're thinking about the storyline, you could add an extension, which is an alternate, so-called alternate universe, if you're into the Marvel cinematic thing. So what are other forms? Can anyone give me other forms? Let's go with Aubrey. Aubrey, any other form of adaptive media that you could think of? Aubrey?
I'm here. I think.
Again, sorry?
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Okay. Anything? If not, I'll come back to you. We'll call on Michelle. Michelle? Michelle?
Yes,
Yep. Any adaptive media that you could think of?
adaptive media will be, I think of the e-banking, because you click on different state, they will have different reaction.
E-banking. Wait.
E-banking websites or the apps.
Okay. So if you click something, it goes to somewhere and it will have an image for you.
For example, the e-banking site will have the individual version or the company version. They have different types of sites. So I think it's changing the state.
Okay. We'll hold into that. Any other example that let's call on Casey? Adaptive media example. We'll come back with that.
Maybe Disney Plus. Because it's quite similar to the media free example one. It's Netflix.
Okay. So the question is, if it is Netflix, can you consider Netflix or Disney Plus interactive or adaptive?
I am not really sure, but I get is adaptive.
Okay.
Because both of them are computer-based mediums.
Okay. Computer-based, and
then they also user can also change change their they can also respond to the website or based on what they can see in this app.
Okay. So your app that you're clicking is changing based on what you are pressing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone who have another answer? Stella, what do you think?
I think maybe virtual reality game, like.
Before we go to virtual reality, do you think Netflix or Disney Plus is adaptive or interactive?
Interactive, I think.
Because?
Because you can post the work, you can play the video, but you cannot change the actions of the users when you are playing Netflix.
Okay. Now, again, we will go back to the main concept. One way or clearer, narrative. If you cannot do anything, narrative. Can pause, play forward, backward, interactive, right? So all the videos you can watch in Netflix, Disney Plus are all interactive. Can we all agree on that? Anyone who disagree will have another thinking, okay? So if we all agree with that, the next question is, like what Michelle is saying, a website, for example. You click something, it will load something else. Let's not go, banking is one. Let's say we just go to our own Hong Kong U website, for example, HKU. HKU. Yeah, we can go CTL to the university website. There we go. So you have a university website, you click something, then it's another thing that would show up. Can this be considered adaptive? Similarly, if you have Netflix, you click something, it will go to the page of the video that you would want to watch. Is that adaptive? That's the question now. Computer-based media capable of changing their state in response to users' action.
Would Netflix and like Disney Plus be a little bit would be different from like an HKU website? Because like Netflix and Disney Plus, if you based on your choices of like preference of what you like to watch, they can generate things like a different list of recommendations that's tailored to each person. But for a website, you can't do that. So Netflix and Disney Plus is adaptive and a website is not, maybe?
Okay,
Is it different?
let's accept that. So if it gives you like recommendation based on your action, can that be considered adaptive? Or are we just looking at, for as long as you click something, it changed something, is that adaptive? Right? So this is where we are at this moment. So we're trying to answer this question together. Let's move forward. Now, this one is much more clear-cut. Simulations. Stella mentioned VR, right? You lift something, you pour something, it will change on its own. If you're being into virtual labs, you would normally get it, right? So if you have those like simulation, you watch something and then you have to do something that would change the outcome. It's very clear cut, this one. So types of adaptive media. One is simulation and the other is virtual environments. Okay. So now we're going down to specifics. Now we're going back again to the questions that we asked. Disney Plus, Netflix that, come up with and generate bunch of resources or bunch of like videos recommended based on your habit or behavior, click behavior, or we're looking at to a website that when you click something, it changed something. Is that an adaptive media? Let's move forward. So you have simulation, a program that embodies a particular thing for you to experience something that is on a digital level. So basically creating a world for you to move in. Okay, so the keywords, it allows users to make inputs and then it will display results. Now, one example, if you've been with H5P, this is a simulation that you could actually try. While virtual environments, we're talking about the graphical model representation where you could actually get in and interact with that environment digitally. So now, going back with the question. I will throw it back again. Disney Plus, a website, you can click something, change something. You have a, what do you call this? You have a Disney Plus or Netflix that would give you recommendation to watch. Are those adaptive media? This is the moment of silence. Can anyone? Let me try to flip the chat, see. Editor makes some version of the video game and it depends players' performance, decide what will happen. Yes, just want to say Black Mirror. It depends on what video. Is it Black Mirror and Netflix? Then it is adaptive. Yep, that is correct. But we are asking here, like, Netflix as an entirety, like the entire Netflix. Is it adaptive or not? Because you can consider Netflix as a bunch of website that gives you lists. Or you could look at your traditional website that gives you things to click. Are this adaptive type of media? Anyone? Come on, who can give me that answer? Yes or no? I got one answer. I think yes. May says yes. Netflix and websites are media. Ingrid says yes. Mary says yes. And the majority says, me too, yes. Okay, and the answer is, actually it's not. Okay, why? Okay, let me tell you why. Okay, you have to remember, you have to step back again. What makes interactive media interactive? Anything that has a hyperlink is interactive, right? We all agree on that. We moved past that 1 hour ago. Anything that has hyperlink or enhanced media are interactive. We're good with that. The next question is, what makes adaptive adaptive? Is that when you go through that media on its own, based on your current behavior or your choices, it will go and offer you of whatever branch that is. So let's look at your Netflix, for example. So one day you watch a couple of horror stories, because horror movies, because your friend told you there's a new horror movie, it's really fun. The next day you watch a couple more, and a few days later Netflix would start telling you, like, Don, these are the list of horror films that you might want to watch. Do you want to watch it or not? It's up to you, right? But whether you are into that space or not, does it matter? That's one question that we will leave. Then the next is that when you move forward, let's say to a website, you enter to a website, you find an information, you click here, click there, you exit to that, and you're done. Both are interactive. We do agree with that. The difference now is that when you go for adaptive media, you think of the entire experience. Mostly, for example, simulation, there is an entire experience that you need to go from beginning till the very end. Do an experiment in this lab. Watch a movie that you could choose the ending. So based on that entire experience, for you to experience that entire media with those choices, then that makes it adaptive. But if I'm going to a website, I click here and I click there, it doesn't really matter what the ending is, because you're just doing it in a very interactive way. You click choices because there are choices for you to work on, for you to choose from. But if that entire experience, you could consider it, or you could think of it, if it is that entire experience is a story, then you need to see the ending of that. But in a website, whether that's Netflix, Disney Plus, or your typical website, the flow of your experience sometimes matter and sometimes doesn't matter. But if you watch Black Mirror, for example, you could pause it at the very end, but that has its fixed story that you can choose from. That has a fixed ending in that. If you join a simulation, there is a particular task that you need to do, and that particular task has an ending for you to finish. But if you go to a website, the website creator have a pattern for you to go through, but it doesn't matter that much. So it's a recommendation for Netflix or for Disney Plus. Whether you would do it or not, it's up to you. But if you watch a Black Mirror and midway you decide, okay, this is too much for me, this is too dark, I don't want to do it. Yes, that's the part that you will end it. But there is a story that is actually you're trying to follow there. There's an activity that you need to do. So that's the main difference why a website, even though you have choices, it would adapt to your choice, but actually that adapting to your choice is just purely interactive level. It interacts with what you choose, like you press forward, you press backward, but the story or that entire design of that media is not adapting to your choice if it is interactive. It has to adapt to your choice, what will be the outcome of your next click, so to say. Okay? So the best way to look at it is that, is there a beginning and the end? And does the end changes based on my choice? If the answer is yes, most likely, I would bet on it, it will be adaptive media. If it is just bunch of clickings left and right, up and down, fast forward, backward, click here, top, bottom, most likely it's interactive. Okay? Any questions? Okay. So if you have no questions, now, this is the part that I would add it a little bit more. Stella already started the conversation of extended reality. Now, if you're thinking about extending your videos and you're thinking about metaverse in its own, metaverse is a space that is a combination of a lot of media. You could already think of communicative, productive, interactive, and adaptive for sure. Metaverse, that could be your metaverse. So if you are a instructional designer, you're looking at around 220,000 budget if you want to create an adaptive world. So you're thinking about 2D asset, 3D assets, things that you can watch. And then of course you need to have those gadgets as well, those technologies with you. Pushing forward, if you have medium budget, what can you do with that extended reality is that you can have a good scripting, character design. There's a spatial audio and interactivity. If you're familiar now with your new, if you have your new AirPods 3, I think, with that spatial audio, you move left, right, you can hear 5.1, 7.1, 7.2 surround, Dolby Atmos kind of thing. These are the boundaries of your adaptive media. So going back to Harris's very early question, once you start thinking about, right now you've been busy creating all your storyboard, but you haven't, this might not come across your mind that in terms of audio, there's a left and right. In terms of vision, there's a peripheral vision, there's a front vision. And once you start moving things, is it 3D or 2D space? These are the things that can go beyond in terms of creating a video. And of course, if you have like a high budget, then you can also already look at those very expensive technology where you could really have a 3D environment that really follows the person. So if you're familiar with Oculus Rift, the one with all these sensors and stuff, to create that 3D virtual world and simulation, these are roughly your working budget if you are an instructional designer or a creator in specific. Okay, so that's your adaptive. Now, to move forward, I would pass the time to Tiffany. But before that, let me just give a couple of words. So if you're thinking about video making, just the video making, which is our topic, you're actually looking at interactive, narrative, adaptive. This is how far you could actually go. Productive is okay. We're kind of there. You could put your educational video in a productive space, in a productive media. But if it is just about the producing and consumption of your educational video, then either narrative, one way, interactive, you can click things, fast forward, backward, or adaptive, they can choose their ending. So these are the media types that you can maximize for your educational video. Okay, so I'll be passing the time to Tiffany and right. Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to, can you hear me right? Can you hear me right? So now we're going to move to the fourth and the fifth media types. And before that, I want to go back to the mirror board and just to check. I have a quick look of all of your the answers to the media 4 and media 5. So it is super clear for everyone that 4, you all agree that this is a this media has been used for communication, right? I think the sample I have put there is very clear. I put Zoom, WhatsApp, and another I think another communicative media there. So it's quite clear for everyone that, oh, those are the medias that we use basically for chatting, for chit chat, for communication. So I think the keyword you got is all correct. That is for communication. So here, this type of media, it emphasizes the deliver of information, and it brings people together to discuss, to develop conversation. And we may notice that it could be audio, like audio conferencing. If you're using, for example, we can even think about telephone. That is a audio conferencing tool, right? We only show the audio, but no graphics or video. So communicative media can be very diverse. It can refers to either the audio I mentioned before, and then the text, like we use WeChat, WhatsApp, any kind of social media that you use for chatting, like Instagram's the chatting function, Zoom, the chatting function, and also the video. Like currently what we are using, heavily used for online class is Zoom. That is a video conferencing tool. Like to be more specific, that is computer mediated video conferencing tool. So communication or communicative tool. So remember, can be 3 different types. Either so 3 types. First, it can be text, and then audio, and then video. But all the purpose of using this kind of tools is for communication. Okay, so I think this is crystal clear for everyone. Now let's have a look of this graph. So first, the green dot shows the broadcasting. So this one belongs to one type of media we have introduced before. Let's have Stella. Stella?
Yes.
Yes. So for this broadcasting, which kind of media do you think it is?
I think it's narrative
Yes, narrative, right? Why do you think so?
because it directly transfer the information to the public. Just
Okay, so yes, it transferred the information, but what is the most important part that differentiate narrative from other media type? All media can be used for transferring information.
just
And focus on the
all they all need to do is to listen. Just they do not need to like interact with the speaker or other things.
Yes. So if you look at the arrow, notice that it's one to many, right? So meaning the direction of this delivery of information is one way, right? It's only from one side to another. Okay, so what Stella have mentioned that, yes, this is used for transferring information. And then for communicative, you may notice at the lower part, the graph is very diversified and dynamic. Like there's arrows and pointing from different dots, like can be two-way and can be pointing to different parties. So this is how we are referring to a communicative media, because everyone is joining into this community and being the contributor of this discussion. And the direction of the information delivery is many to many, right? 2V. So in this case, we are emphasizing the two-way communication. In this sense, a differentiate narrative and communicative media. Okay, good. Then like Zoom, what we are using now is a communicative tool, right? So let's see how many different media affordance that Zoom has. Let's invite Jason. Jason, right? Yeah, Jason.
Sure, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, let me repeat my question. So now we're using Zoom, right?
Yes.
It's a very diverse and powerful tool for communication. And how many different types of media affordance you can think of by using Zoom? So I give you some options: text, audio, and video. Okay, so first, do you think Zoom can be used for text communication?
Yes.
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 In which function?
The chat room.
Yes, correct. Chat, right?
Yeah.
Then how about audio affordance? Can it?
Audio. I think audio can use it in the video call.
So now, yeah, we are in a video call, right? So
Yes.
we clear, check. So how about audio? Let me give you an example. If now I ask Sarah to answer some questions, do you think it's audio or video?
It's audio.
Yes. So if you are switching your camera, then we are lowering down our affordance from video to audio. Okay. So this is nowadays the video conferencing tool. Normally they can combine all the different affordances together and package them into one communicative tool. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Jason.
Okay.
Then let's have more example. Let's see more example of communicative tool. Social media, right? We're all fan of Instagram, Facebook. Before, like 10 years ago, we are all using blog. Those are heavily text-based communicative tool. But now we are all consuming video, streaming video. So that's why if you are a Instagram user, you will see that nowadays they are not only posting the static image, right? People are not just sharing their static image, but they are sharing their stories. Stories can be using some tool to make those static image moving, and they can also upload short videos that can be called reels. So those are, so in that way, Instagram package all of those different types of media affordance together to better facilitate people communication in that social media tool. Okay, but for communication, especially nowadays we are heavily using online community. There are two types of communication, either synchronous or asynchronous. So for synchronous, anyone has an idea, like the current class we are having, is that synchronous or asynchronous?
Synchronous. I think synchronous because they are in the same page.
Correct. Thank you, Alan. So then I will have another follow-up question. If we are having this synchronous class, this communication, do you think you can also incorporate interactive media into it, a synchronous class?
If my share my screen for the PowerPoint presentation, maybe it is a kind of synchronization.
So if that is a presentation, right, Ellen?
Yes, the presentation of PowerPoint or share my screen maybe use this type of communication.
Yes, can be, right. For example, if I use Mentimeter as a tool to facilitate presentation, and I ask you to post something there for a vote, for example, that can be used in a synchronous class, but I also embedded in interactive media into that. But so on the other hand, asynchronous means we're not at the same page. If you are watching our class recording after class, that is an asynchronous communication, right? If you rewatch the videos and you may raise some questions and concerns, but you cannot not ask the question to us straight there, right? Because that is synchronous. We're not at the same time, the same thinking or talking about the same thing. So now I want you to think about some asynchronous communication situation that is also heavily used in education field, asynchronous. So how about Sarah?
Hi.
Hi, Sarah. So for asynchronous communication, do you think of any of this type tool we have used in our class?
Can we say something like the flipped classroom? Like the students learn by themselves and on their schedule?
Yes. Then you are referring to the pre-class and post-class, right? So pre-class, maybe teachers can give students something to do before they come to a class. That is asynchronous learning. But for asynchronous communication, how about communication? If you put more focus on communication, asynchronous communication. Have you ever encountered this kind of tool?
Can we say something like forum?
Yes, correct. That is what I'm going to
Okay.
ask you to think about it. Yes, asynchronous communication tool that a lot of narrative teacher may use is discussion forum, right? They may ask you to put some ideas on a topic, and then they will bring it to the class and do the in-class discussion.
We have some comments on the screen.
Oh.
Chat, sorry. There's like chat questions if you click your chats.
Okay, let me read.
Yeah.
Coursera. Okay, Coursera is one type of MOOC. Anyone who has no idea about MOOC, please raise your digital hand. No idea about MOOC. So no one? Okay, that means now we are on the same page. You all have an idea about MOOC, right? So if you know what MOOC is, then is MOOC a synchronous or asynchronous class? You help me to call a student name. Cannot see. Penny?
Yeah, Penny.
Kenny. Okay. Kenny?
No, Penny.
Penny. Penny.
Hi,
Sorry. Yes. So Coursera is one type of MOOC. Do you think MOOC is a synchronous or asynchronous communication class?
I think MOOC is the asynchronous communication because the students can watch the videos at any time they want and post their ideas on the forum in the MOOC.
Yes, correct. So yeah, I assume all of you have this same answer as Penny. So that's asynchronous. And another one is about WhatsApp group. Yes, WhatsApp group is also a communication tool. That is clear. Google Drive. Okay, Google Drive, we will leave this like a while later. And even chat box. Okay, chat box is also communication tool that is focused on text. Okay. Then let's move on to the productive. And I also look at your answer for the media type 5. And then I think all of you have the same agreement that the last one is really emphasizing collaboration, teamwork. So this type of tool refers to the ability to let students produce their own content on that certain tool. Everyone can be the contributor to building the content. And by doing so, you are using this tool to engaging students, right? Because not only they can do some activities there, they can create the content there, but at the end, they can use all of the things to represent their learning outcome. Okay, so that is productive. Productive emphasize two things. First is collaboration. Okay, it doesn't mean a single person work. For example, if I'm doing my work alone in a Google form or Google document, though I'm creating something online, but I'm doing it solo, so it's not productive. It really emphasizes you will have a community and all of the people join together to do the content creation together. So that is productive.
Okay, welcome back. Is everyone back? Yeah. Okay. So if it gets a little bit confusing, I think we are all clear with narrative, communicative, and productive. Okay. Now let's try to see whether your interactive and adaptive can be ironed out. Okay. So what we're going to do now is that I will be asking everyone to go to your Miro, and it's very simple. The activity is very simple. As a group, we will open the breakout rooms, take a screenshot of the 5 types of media that you get. So I think, let's try to rename this. I think I should have renamed it. Okay. Okay, we will try to help you rename it, or you could help us rename, like, so there are 5 types. You have interactive, adaptive, communicative, productive, and narrative. So what you need to do is that find within those 5 types, find an example. If we have discussed it, find something that we haven't discussed. If you cannot really find one, then of course you can find one that you could think of based on our discussion and paste it in. Okay, so 20 minutes, is that a good number? So we'll start with 20 minutes, find those 5 later, and then we will look into it and see where are the gaps in our discussion. Okay, so Tiffany will open the breakout room now for 20 minutes. We'll call you back at 9, and then we will look at your answers. So if you're looking, I would advise you to look at your Zoom screen, because I will be taking over Miro, and then we will answer everything in Miro so that we can clear as many confusion as possible. Okay. Now, okay. So if you're looking at your Zoom screen right now, I hope you are all looking at your Zoom screen. Let's look at AAPS. First question, Voice of America. Can I pause, move forward, play backward? Abdul, can be? Okay, then it's not narrative. It's interactive. Clear? Objection, violent reaction, let me know. You unmute yourself, okay? So if this one can be pause or play forward, therefore it's interactive. Okay, so this one is interactive. Okay. Next, Fox News Radio. Let's say you're listening to it, you pause, and then later you come back 15 minutes later. Can you still listen to where you stopped? Abdul, yes or no? No. Okay, so if it is a live news, then therefore this one is correct, narrative. Okay, next. Bilibili. Okay, so if you're looking at Bilibili, it's same thing as your YouTube. Okay, for as long as there is no branching scenario videos that you captured, therefore this one interactive. Play, pause, forward, stop. We're clear? We're good? Next. Online simulator. The question here is, if I change this parameter, does it change the outcome? Yes. Abdul is nodding yes to me.
Yes.
Okay. Penny, correct? Does it change the outcome, Penny? You're from the same group.
Yes, it will change.
Therefore, adaptive. Calculator. You change the number, change output. But is this a media to begin with? Okay, so I'll put a question mark. Definitely, I would not categorize this as your media. Text to speech. Text to speech. It's the consumption. Would this be even fall into a media? Okay, we will try to answer these question marks later because, or like later, like next week, I will give you a definitive answer of what makes a media. But so far, this two is definitely, I would not put it into a media type. Okay, so we have WeChat, Google Duo, Discord, Ding Talk. These are all communicative. We're good with that. Now, Google Site, okay, you create, it's similar to your wiki, right? For as long as you don't put a discussion forum in your website, okay, once you put a discussion forum, that becomes communicative. But if you just create and, you know, upload stuff there, then your Google site is definitely productive. Animaker, okay, you can produce something, you can produce your video animation using this, then that's correct. OneNote, producing notes, definitely yes. Okay, JAMC, Casey is still moving it. Twitch, okay. One question, recorded. If it is recorded and uploaded, the recording becomes interactive. We're clear? If you're just watching it live, then narrative. Okay? We're good with that? Next, SimCity. Interactive, adaptive. This is the question. SimCity. If you change a certain parameter, would it change the outlook of the city? Yes or no? Who answers this?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
This is a good game.
Alan, what is this one?
This can interactive because if you change some parameter, we will change the outcome of the game.
Then, therefore, if it changed the outcome because of what you do in between,
we can get response and new version of the simplicity can join other people to do some amendments on the parameter.
Okay. Now, when I say it changes the response. So, for example, in your simulation, you have a point A, right? So let's say you only have like 2 buildings. Okay, so you have 2 buildings here, for example. And then, because I don't know how to play SimCity, honestly, but let's say point B, after you earn something, you can build more building, you can earn more money from there, and then probably build a better city. Then therefore, this change, does this change happen because of what you do here? If the answer is yes, if those two are linked, then therefore this becomes adaptive. Okay? If you're just thinking of moving forward and backward, you click something and that thing only, like, if you're watching a video, it would just play. Or if you're, let's say, adjusting a particular, let's say, what is another example here? Videos, you have other? View, mostly videos, moving forward and backward. Okay, so for as long as those two are not linked, if it is not linked, okay, then you can put it under interactive. Website, for example, you click a web page, you exit a web page, you go to another web page in the same website. Those technically are not linked together. It won't affect whatever you do in one click, will not affect the others. If there's nothing that affects of whatever you kind of click, and it's contained in that same media, therefore that is interactive. You can interact. But if it affects the next outcome of whatever you're doing, for example, in the case of games, you're playing, and if you kill a person in that game, an NPC, that NPC will activate a monster, then practically what's happening here is it's adaptive. It adapts to your actions, and the outcome of whatever is going to happen next was based on your current choices. Okay? So games, most likely, most of the games would fall under adaptive. That is safe to say. Because my action now will determine my future few minutes later. But it's different when it's interactive. Interactive, let's say, if I just click a particular website or move forward the video, technically it's still the same video that you're watching. It just goes faster forward, or you just go to another page. If you're in Netflix or Disney Plus, you go from one genre to another. It's not that if you click one genre, the next genre will be changed dramatically, or there will be a change after that. It doesn't affect this. That genre is still the same genre. That movie is still the same movie. It won't change. But if it is in a game, in a simulation, let's say you do something that would kill a particular person. Let's say you're in a medical simulation. You just don't care whether this person will die or not if you use this equipment or not. Then that would affect the outcome of that simulation. Similarly, you do it right here, flight simulator, okay? So you control a particular thing, it will follow where your plane is going. Then therefore, that is a adaptive media, correct? Communicative, Animal Crossing. This can be in several layers. Is there a chat function? Is there a chat function in Animal Crossing? Yes or no? Can anyone tell me, is there a chat function? Anne, have you played Animal Crossing? Anne? Anne?
No.
Yes. Anne, Animal
And
Crossing, have you played?
no, not me.
No, no. Who has played Animal Crossing before? I haven't tried this. No. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So who placed Animal Crossing first? Who answered this?
Me.
Who?
Me.
Okay, Jason.
Yes.
So is there a chat function?
Yes.
Okay, then communicative. Do you build something? Let's build a city. Let's build a map. Like Minecraft.
Build a village.
Build a village, then you can look at it as it can go under productive. What else can it? Is there a video that you can watch forward, backward? Resources that you could, I don't know if there are resources here that you could consume, or collecting points, I suppose. You need to farm something.
Yes, we need to we can get some resources together.
Okay.
By linking with friends.
How do you collect that resources?
Just take it in the ground.
Okay, so you need
yeah.
something. Do you need to grow something?
Yes, grow something.
Okay. So if you grow more crops, you get more resources. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Less crop, less resources.
Yes.
Some crops will allow you to create certain type of items in the map, in the game, right?
Yes.
You plant more trees, then you get more wood. You plant more apples and oranges, you get more food. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that in itself is adaptive in nature.
Yes.
Whatever you do inside the game would affect whatever outcome you would be having tomorrow or after a few minutes of playing. Next, BBC News. If again, can it be paused? If the answer is yes, interactive. Okay. If I can watch it again later and then scrub the video, it is adaptive. But if the moment you see this, okay, after let's say
Sorry, it's text, not video.
Go again.
It's text, not video.
Text. News,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah, there are articles.
Articles. Okay. Are articles narrative format? That's the question, right? Is that the question, Wendy?
I just want to clarify that these are articles rather than videos.
Okay. So for articles, can it be? What if it is an article? That's the question, right? Is that the question? Wendy?
I'm not asking questions because I put it under narrative.
Okay. So I'm asking you where, okay, so then let me throw you back the question. If it is an article, is it narrative? Are all articles narrative?
I think yes, but it's not leave, like you can just close it and leave the page.
Okay. So how would you know if it is narrative? There's one word that you need to look.
Hyperlink.
Now, the text in itself, if you read through it, like for example, your newspaper or even online, okay, if it is just that plain thing that you just read straight from the website, you cannot click anything. That in its own is narrative. But this entire website, you can interact with it. This is interactive, the website in its own. Okay, but if you click this and let's say you just zoom in and you can only read this part, cannot do anything else, just plain reading, narrative. Clear?
Clear. So what if in the article there are hyperlinks? So it's interactive.
Question: if there are hyperlinks in a particular text, what is it?
Is it interactive?
Will cross into your interactive because you can already interact with your article. You know how some articles in newspaper would link to another article? Because you need to learn more, you need to know more. So for example, it's discussed about the Ukraine war. For example, you will have like, to know more about the map of how many Russian forces have already invaded a particular thing. You know how some articles would have these sub-articles embedded in it. Then yes, that's interactive. Hyperlinks. It becomes a hypermedia. Therefore, it's interactive. Clear?
Clear.
Yeah. So just ask yourself, can I click something? But if I do something, does it change the outcome of whatever will happen to me in the future? If the answer is yes, then that stops in interactive, it becomes adaptive. Okay? So if you do something that changed the outcome, therefore, it's adaptive. If you click something and it just opens something for you to read another thing, that doesn't change the outcome of the previous one, or it won't change the outcome of what you're currently doing. That is interactive. If there's nothing you can do, you just look at it, listen to it, stare at it, narrative. Okay? Now, let's look at this. Video, interactive. Yes, this one, correct. Podcast, pause forward. Good. What is this? 360 markup video of a train station. Yep. We're good with that. Same thing, experiment. Yes, if you change the parameter here, that would change whatever is coming out there. Then that's your adaptive, correct? Decision wheel. I really don't know how to classify all these things. I will tag it together with the calculator. Are calculators a type of media? Okay, I'll give it a question mark. I will answer it later. Scratch. Okay. Scratch, is it adaptive? Good one, Abdul. It's productive because you create something out of scratch. Now, the product that you create, if it is a game that you catch something, it changed something, then that becomes adaptive. Okay? So it depends on what you create on Scratch, but Scratch on its own is this one.
Sorry, the sharing screen do not move.
Oh, sorry. Everyone. Okay. Yep. Okay. We're good now, right? Okay, thank you. Productive. Okay. So Scratch is productive. Next, communicative, you have Microsoft Teams, yes. Lark online meeting, I assume it is for chatting. I think if it is, WeChat call, yes, those are communicative. Mind mapping, productive. Figma, I'm not sure what Figma is. Can anyone explain me what Figma is? Apps.
Is it a prototype thing?
Okay, prototyping, like your Marvel app. Got that. Yes, then it is. OneDrive, I will put it a little bit in a borderline. It depends on what you do with it. Weak editor, then yes, it's productive. Anything else that we need to cover? Okay, I think my iPad is stuck. Okay, let's look into this. Where's my mouse? There we go. Bring everyone to me. Okay. Okay. So again, view TV. The TVB, probably if you're just watching it straight, you cannot move forward, backward. If you have an app of view TV, You miss it, you missed it. If recorded, then that becomes interactive. So for as long as you start seeing all this play button, most likely you can pause it, interactive. Okay. Spark.com. Websites. Websites would be interactive, yes. Hyperlinks, H5P, MTR simulator, physics lab, those are your simulations. Got that. Signal, Hangout, WhatsApp, Clear Cut. Productive, Monday.com. It's scheduling. Scheduling, media. I'll put a pause on this one. We have to verify. Mural, and it's like your Miro, Google Workspace. Yes, if you look at the things that you could do in a Google Workspace. Finally, last group, you have Canva, Wix, App Inventor, Productive, Clear Cut. Utopia, I think is it a game?
Yes, a sandbox game.
Sandbox game. Therefore, yep, adaptive, Minecraft, adaptive, flight simulator. We got that. Bloomberg Live, RTHK Radio Live, narrative. Yes. Move is like your Spotify, probably.
Yes,
Something like
Spotify.
Okay. H5P branching scenario. Now, Tony, what do you think? Branching scenario from the word itself. Branching, Tony?
I guess this is adaptive.
Adaptive, yes, correct. Finally, Instagram, Signal, Messenger. Instagram.
The chat function.
Chat function. Okay. Chat function. Clear. Okay. So if it is not the chat function, what is it? Instagram.
Interactive.
Interactive or narrative?
Interactive.
Interactive. Why? You can like.
You can pause the video.
You can pause. You can share. There are a lot more things you could do with that Instagram post, right? Okay. Is it clear now in some sense? Is it? Any questions? Okay. So I owe you 6 minutes. We will return that to you next Tuesday. So I will be updating all the folders later tonight, probably give or take midday tomorrow. I will send a message as usual. If you have any questions, feel free to stay behind. If you don't have any questions, this is your session 6. Have a wonderful evening and see you next week. This is for real. Next week, June 7, 6:30, same time, same link. Okay? Have a good night.